All right, guys, I'm going to do a quick hangouts over this issue that just happened on the Atheist Experience. Now, the reason why I decided to run the hangout the way that I did it just now was because a couple of weeks ago, I actually called the Atheist Experience twice. The first discussion that I had with Matt Delahanty, I got some positive feedback from the community. There's a lot of positive feedback in the comment section and from certain individuals over Skype. I called them a second time, and I noticed that the second time I didn't call with my phone, but I called with a high-powered condenser mic, and for some reason my audio was horrible there. Now, I was suspecting for a while that they had decreased my volume because I actually went through some of the checks to make sure that my mic was working properly before I went live. And yeah, I knew that they were turning down my volume, so it would be easy for them to overtalk me and to play their games, obviously because the first discussion didn't work out that well with Matt. So I noticed what Brett Keane did in a recent discussion that he just had with the Atheist Experience. He's using, I believe, the same microphone that I'm using, and the audio seems to be perfect and clear when he's, you can hear him speaking through the live feed. But in the Atheist Experience, the call, his audio quality seems to be horrible. It's very easy for them to talk over Brett while he's speaking, and while they're over talking Brett while he's speaking, you can very clearly see his audio cuts out. So they can just speak, and then his volume is going to cut out. So this week, I went to the Atheist Experience, or today actually, I went to go call to the Atheist Experience, and I made this known at the very beginning. Let me play what I said at the very beginning of this call. How's the audio, guys?
I guess you just need to look. You know, I think this is a very one way.
Okay, guys.
Say that stuff. So.
Last week, the audio seemed to be very, very low. So can we make sure that there's not going to be any over-talking, that we're just going to respect each other and wait till each other are finished talking?
Well, I'm not aware of any technical problems right now.
We can try, although I have to say, like, we may need to cut in sometimes if there is a problem. And by the way, it's funny you mentioned Brett Keane, because we've had a ton of technical problems with him, which turned out to trace back to the fact that he was trying to rebroadcast the show at the same time that we were talking. And I'm hearing a very similar echo from you right now.
Well, I am streaming. I am streaming this through the live feed. So before we started, so I let them know what I didn't want to happen while we were talking. I didn't want there to be any over talking, because last time it seemed like it was very simple for them to just over talk the theist while he was talking. It seems to happen all the time, especially when the theist is trying to make a point. They tend to over talk the theist, and no one gets to hear what the theist was trying to say. But listen to what they say about me streaming right now. And let's make sure that you're
actually not okay.
Yeah, it's not okay.
The reason it's not okay is because the Atheist Experience is copyrighted, and we don't let people rebroadcast unless the clips are short and you don't monetize them.
Okay, but now let's keep this in mind, all right? The last time when Brett Keane called, they said they wouldn't mind, it would be okay. That's what they told Brett Keane, word for word, the last time Brett Keane called, that all he needed to do was tell them when he was speaking with them that he had been broadcasting them on his YouTube channel, and they would have no problem with it. Now, since obviously they got a lot of bad feedback on Brett Keane's channel, they don't want anybody doing that. They don't want anybody streaming the live feed. Why? Just think about why. Just use a little of common sense, guys. Because on his show, if you listen to his feed, you can hear everything that Brett Keane is saying. There's no censorship there. Everything that Brett Keane was trying to say in response to the Atheist Experience is heard loud and clear. And when you compare both sides, they're obviously not looking too well. They only want the audio streamed through their show because it's very easy for them to overtalk us and to, manipulate the discussion to try to make themselves look better than they actually are. Now, the next thing that I want to say is that when I was streaming that discussion, I wasn't streaming the show. I wasn't streaming any live stream. I was actually streaming my phone call. I called them right now through my phone. I had my microphone set up through my phone so that I can use my microphone through my phone. And that's where you were hearing it from. I was recording the phone call. But here's where they lied. This is really important. Listen to what they say towards the end here. This is when I'm going to be ending the call. Let me screen share it so that you guys can see it. Okay, this is where they lie right here. Okay, but you're recording me right now, so
turn off the stream, or I'll hang up on you.
okay. Well, I'm not going to give you an excuse to get out of the call, so I'll end this right now. The phone call ended right there, right? Watch what they're saying afterwards.
The Atheist Experience is copyrighted, and we don't let people rebroadcast unless the clips are short and you don't monetize them.
Notice my audio too, just like I was saying, guys. Notice my audio here in their live feed.
I'm gonna have to ask you to turn off the stream, or I'll hang up on you.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to give you an excuse to get out of the call, so I'll end this right now.
Good.
So I ended the call right there, but listen to what they say afterwards.
Are you associated with Brett Keane? It's fine if you are. I'm still going to talk to you.
I'm associated. Most of the big name atheists and most of the Christians I need to know.
Now, could this be the reason why they removed me from the call? It's pretty interesting. Let's hear
Yes, I
it.
am associated.
I don't know who you are. Who are you?
Yeah, who are you?
Well, that's fine that you don't know who I am, but I do have.
We're still getting an echo, and you're being kind of a jerk.
Now, they're saying that they're still hearing an echo, but the call just ended a few moments ago. He's accusing me of having the live feed still running, and the call was ended.
Well, I just ended the live feed.
Okay.
I do get anywhere between 1,000 to 40,000 people who watch my videos,
Don't
so they'll
care.
be able to see when I cut out the live feed. Okay. I just ended it right now, so there's no reason for you to air that.
Still hearing the echo,
Yeah.
though.
Okay, so give me 1 second.
I think this guy's bullshitting us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna record the call before they removed me from the discussion, but unfortunately I wasn't able to move quick enough to bust out my Camtasia Studio. So if I could record my camera, then record what's going on so that they could see that I'm talking to them through my phone. There is no speakers on. There's nothing going on. It was just us talking. The broadcast was ended. And I think the reason why they did that was because they realized that, look, Brett Keane had a decent amount of people watch that discussion. And if I have a decent amount of viewers watching my channel, they might not look too good if if they continue the discussion going and if I put this discussion on my channel. Maybe that's a possibility, but regardless, the fact that he would still be accusing me of running the stream through another Hangout or through some other way, broadcasting it another way, when the broadcast was ended, indicated that he just lied right through his teeth. He was just trying to find a way out of the discussion. So I don't know if you have anything to say on that, Antonio. You can go ahead, man.
Sounds like what was going on, man, was several problems. Number one, I was getting some feedback.
You're cutting out kind of bad, dude.
Can you hear me now?
You're breaking up a little bit. Okay, so he's gonna refresh, I guess. But okay, he's back, guys.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear now, man.
Oh, okay. As I was saying, it seemed like there was several things that were going on there. First thing is they weren't really listening to what you were saying because, I mean, they just wanted to just assume that you were still rebroadcasting when you clearly cut the live feed. They just made an assumption. So they weren't really listening to what you were saying. Number two, because they weren't listening to what you were saying or really didn't care, they just made a ridiculous assumption. Because, I mean, there could have been a number of different things as to why that live feed was echoing. I mean, just because they heard an echo doesn't mean that you were still streaming. So they didn't listen. Number one, they made a bogus assumption, and that's the second thing. And number three, they tried to, play this guilt by association thing, trying to find out that if you were associated with Brett King for some reason, as if that would somehow impugn your motives for calling or something like that. So yeah, there were so many things wrong with what they were doing, and yeah,
I was hearing some of the people, because I called the second time and they put me on hold for a little bit. The guy was going to see if they still wanted to continue talking, and I was listening to what was being said by some of the callers, and they were doing so horrible, man. It was a shame that I couldn't get in there and actually have the discussion. They don't want any opposition. It seems like they're trying to do the best that they can to make sure people do not challenge them, or people don't start doing things that make them look bad. But unfortunately, I mean, that's going to keep on happening. I need to figure out a better way to, I guess, to try to stream the audio to where they're not going to be able to pick up on it. Because I know they were probably hearing it faintly to begin with, because I was hearing it actually myself when I was trying to get everything set up. But when everything is shut off, they can't be saying that. I mean, there's no reason for them to continue saying that, look, I'm hearing the audio because I'm speaking only through my phone,
Quite honestly, man, I think people need to just stop calling their show. They're not really worth anybody's time. They're not that good at what they do, and they're just a waste of time, quite honestly. Yeah, they're just a bunch of tools as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's true that they're not really that smart. They really aren't that smart, but at the same time, because of, you see what's going on with the games that they play whenever theists try to call their show, I think that theists that are not aware of other arguments out there, they sort of become discouraged. And that's the reason why somebody needs to get in that show, be able to stay on that show for at least 10 minutes and not be ejected, and be able to offer a case for our side, because it seems like no one is allowed to come in there that has any sort of strengths or can, lend some sort of defense for the Christian side. They seem to only be wanting people in there. And pay attention to this as these discussions continue. I actually have a video on the way in response to Matt Dillahunty. I'm noticing that whenever somebody calls that has no strengths or comes in sort of, shy or timid, they'll let the discussion continue, and usually that discussion will carry on for like 7-10 minutes or so. But if somebody comes in there bold and respectful and just tells them flat out, look, you're wrong because of X, Y, and Z, they are immediately overtalked and ejected from the discussion. It's a form of censorship that I'm noticing going on. It's like they're trying to make sure that none of the cases that theists present are going to be presented. And if they do present a case, only people who are not confident enough to present the case are going to be allowed to continue speaking.
The thing is, man, maybe except for Matt Dillahunty every blue moon with certain theists, pretty much nobody on that show is going to engage in a one-on-one debate. Whether it's structured, whether it's a casual discussion, it's pretty much not going to happen. That's why they stick in a little echo chamber behind that show, taking phone calls so they can try to control the flow of the conversation.
Exactly.
In a one-on-one structured debate with anybody. I haven't seen those other two engaging in people in one-on-one debates. And again, and even with Matt Dillahunty doing, it's just every blue moon with only like theists of a certain stature, not just with your average, person.
And did you hear what the guy said? I don't know what his name is, but he said that I was being a jerk, asking you to not overtalk me, and I don't overtalk you, so we can actually have a productive discussion. How am I being a jerk by asking for that? And if you're telling me that I'm being a jerk for streaming the live feed, man, you're streaming me right now, and also I'm not streaming the live feed. I'm streaming the phone call so that people can hear the discussion. I didn't say that, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't want to argue with them over that. I wanted to get to an actual argument, but they they cut it down before that could happen. You know, maybe it was foolish of me to go in there, and let them know anything about Brett Keane. I think maybe because I said that I was associated with Brett Keane, they may not have wanted me to stay in the call. That might have been what it was.
I think that's absolutely ridiculous because they put this stuff on YouTube, and you think they don't talk to other people who might potentially have a lot of followers, maybe, and maybe their videos get monetized. And it's not like they don't put the stuff on YouTube. They put pretty much all the shows on YouTube. So what if they talk to a Christian that has a lot of subs and has gotten monetized? So what would they do? Would they not put it up on their YouTube channel because the person that they were talking to gets monetized by their own logic? It makes no sense.
Well, I figured to tell them that when I first came in, because you want to make sure the discussion is going to be productive. You don't want, when you're calling a show, you're taking your time out of the day to call a show. You don't want to be calling a show where they're going to be taking advantage of the discussion just because they are in control of it in order to manipulate it to keep you from speaking. I mean, because it's a waste of your time. So the reason why I called the show was not to be disrespectful to them. I think I was very respectful. Not asking for the discussion to be productive, asking for the discussion to be where both people are going to wait for each other to finish is in no way being disrespectful. And for some reason, he viewed me as being a jerk for, making that particular point. He actually said later on something about who do I think I am or something like that. That gets on his nerves the most. It's one of his biggest pet peeves with people claiming that coming in rooms trying to make a bunch of claims and ground rules for debate. Like, that's not what I was doing at all. I came in trying to make sure, look, I am calling in through this show, and I want to make sure that because the audio seems to not be coming in for some strange reason clear, that I'm not going to be over talked. That way my point can be heard. I mean, I think that's a pretty fair request.
Yeah, exactly. The bottom line is they was trying to make a bunch of excuses to kill the conversation before it started. And like I just said, if they want to go by their own logic, then they can't talk to any Christian that has a lot of subs who may get this stuff monetized, because then they'll end up on their channel. And what would they do? Not put it up? That makes no sense. They would literally have to make sure every Christian that they're talking to has like no subs or whatever. And the thing is,
right. The bottom line is, like I said, the first discussion that he had with Brett Keane, he told Brett Keane he would have no problem with that if he were to stream it. He only has a problem with it now because after it was streamed and they could hear what the theists were saying clearly on Brett Keane's show, he realizes that he got made a fool of, because they're hearing things from the Christian end, not just from the atheist experience. So you got flip sides of the coin right there. You can clearly see when you compare the audio that they got destroyed. They were made to look like fools. Now, for some reason, a week later, this week, when I call him, we can't stream the audio because it's copyright. Now, first of all, they don't know what they're talking about because I can stream whatever I want through the call. They're doing the same thing. I'm not streaming the live feed. But if I wanted to take that live feed and put it on my channel, I could do that. I could do that so long as I put some commentary included inside of the video. That's what you call fair use. But I didn't want to get into any of that because it would have turned into a completely different issue than what I wanted to originally come in. Keep this in mind, guys, too. When you call the atheist experience, you got to let them know what you want to talk about beforehand. And I wanted to talk about intelligent design and how this impacts atheism. They knew what I was going to talk about before I went in. And I think we were talking about the other day how they basically try to change the topic. They try to find ways to get out of trying to talk with people about certain topics. Somebody actually, I think they just sent me a message on that earlier today to make sure that I keep one of the opponents on defense, make sure that they're staying on the particular topic so they don't stray away. But that's really all I wanted to talk about. There wasn't really much else to say. they just lied right through their teeth, guys. I mean, the audio was shut off. The broadcast was shut off. I was speaking to them through my phone. Clearly, I mean, you can see the live feed here. There was no reason for them to say that afterwards. And you can compare the live feed here on the last video that I uploaded with their live feed. There was no reason for them to say that. Unless you have anything to add, Antonio, I'm going to end the call.
Yeah, I think, again, they was just making a bunch of excuses to kill the conversation before it began. I mean, and if this is how they're going to operate, that, like, nobody can stream while they're doing a show, I think that's absolutely ridiculous, because this sort of thing happens all the time on the internet, that people are streaming things at the same time and doing shows. It's basically like a dual show, so to speak. Like they'll have a guest come on, and that guest will be streaming something from their channel, right? Just, to be a guest, and they would already know that, and it's not really a big deal. And then those things will be posted on their channels after the thing is done. This sort of stuff happens on the internet all the time. And then they want to all of a sudden, like, just make a gripe out of somebody streaming while they're calling. I think that's one of the dumbest rules that they could have made.
And, well, they made that rule because of what just happened recently. So, unfortunately, I mean, I don't know. It's a shame that it goes like that, but it just shows how much respect they have for their Christian callers. It's okay for them, for some reason, for us to call them and be recorded from their end, but we are not allowed to record them on our side. What kind of disrespect is that? It's a bunch of BS. Like, dude, if I'm going to talk to you, look at, you're not better than me because you're on your show, whatever it is, your live internet show, whatever it is, and it's no better than myself streaming you from the other end. And it's just, somebody's gonna take their time out to call you and to speak to you on your show. Why not let them stream the show on their own end? And the reason's obvious. If you look at the audio, you really compare the audio from the first discussion I had with him, the second discussion that I had with the Atheist Experience, and you stream it. You look at the stream that Brett Keane ran, and you look at the live feed on the Atheist Experience end, you can clearly see a difference in audio. You can clearly see a difference in audio. They are tweaking with the audio specifically so that they can overtalk the theists when they call on their show. That's very clearly what's going on here. And it seems like they're doing everything in their power to make sure that the theist is going to get the worst end of the discussion. It's not some discussion, panel where everything's fair and we just go in and we have a discussion or a dialogue. Everything is set up to make the atheist look like they're in a position of authority to tell whoever the caller is if they're wrong or right. And how they do that is by removing people who start to bring up things that are inconvenient for them, or playing games like this. I mean, they're so inconsistent with what they do. And the inconsistency seems to be only in one direction. That is, don't let the theist say something, or don't let the theist continue to speak if it's going to be something that's going to make us look bad.
And what in the world do they mean about if the clips are short, or as long as they don't try to monetize it? Now, what do they even define as short? Like the conversation went on for like 2-3 minutes. Can they use that if it's not monetized? If it's not monetized at all, what the conversation went on for 15 minutes, they can't use it then? Like, what are they talking about? Like, what exactly would they be able to use if it's not monetized, or if it's not too long? It's almost like it makes it worthless. It's almost like you can't use anything, pretty much.
Yeah, well, what I find ridiculous about that call was that, look, nobody was being disrespectful. There was no reason for them to do that. There was no reason for them to remove me from the call before the discussion continues. The only reasons that line up is everything that I've been suspecting of beforehand. I came in there respectful. I only wanted the discussion to be fair. I wanted to make sure no one overtalks each other. To them, they thought that I was laying down a bunch of demands. I mean, asking that we both wait for each other to finish isn't really a demand. It's just how adults should speak to each other. And to sit over here and tell me that I can't stream the live feed when just a week ago they told Brett that that's fine, that he could go ahead and do that. And that's the reason why they removed me from the call. I mean, it's ridiculous. And wait, because they're trying to say that they removed me from the call because they were still hearing an echo. It's impossible. There's no way for them to hear an echo. We just played the clip when my feed ended and when their feed continued. That there was no possible way for them to hear that echo through my phone. It's impossible because none of the speakers were hooked up. The broadcast ended, so there was no loop of sound that was going to continue. So there's no way for that to actually happen. So the fact that he said that, he's just thinking he was going to continue to say that. And when I mentioned that, look, I have about anywhere between 1,000 to 40,000 people who watch my videos. 35,000 to 40,000 people. That's the range of the video views that I actually have. When I told him that I have that many viewers, I noticed that that's when he booted me afterwards, because I told him, look, there's no reason for you to be here for you to hear this, and I know you can hear it clearly through their audio because, like I said, their audio was breaking up. But I told him, there's no reason for you to hear this. There's going to be a lot of people and know that that's not true. The audio was just shut down, and shortly after that, that's when they removed me from the call.
So you can't put it on your channel, but I mean, it wouldn't really be much different if you didn't put anything on your channel at all, and they would post it or something, and you'd be like, well, you can go here and check it out. I don't really think there's really much difference other than the fact that, yeah, if you actually put it on your channel, yeah, you may be able to make money off of it by monetizing it, but if nothing else, they get free promotion. I don't see why they're getting hurt about it, to be honest. You know, that's just free promotion for them.
Yeah, like I said, there was no reason for them to do that. The only reason why they would do that is because last week they didn't look good when the live feed played through Brad Keen's den, and they don't want that to happen again. What they don't realize is that I don't really need to do this. I don't need to run the live feed. I can always, maybe what I should do next time I call, instead I should record the discussion. That's what I should do. Just record it from my end, so that people can hear it from my end. That's what I should possibly do, because I notice I can't figure out a way how to get the live stream running through the Hangouts without there being an echo of some kind. So I need to try to figure out a way to where I can just record the discussion or something offline, maybe use some sort of application through my phone, and I don't know, maybe it'll work better that way.
Yeah, I think if anything happens to where it makes them look stupid, then they won't even post excuse me, they won't even post the video on their channel if it makes them look wrong. I think that's the problem. They're just trying to squash any possible way that they will be challenged, any possible way that'll make them look bad in front of their subs. So
I tell you what I should do. I should get a voice changer. A buddy of mine has a voice changer, and he can make himself sound like a female or somebody else completely. And I should call in their show and act like, I'm just stupid, I don't know anything, and just slowly like lay it on them little by little by little. That's what I should do. Yeah,
that'd be pretty funny. But yeah, man, this is what these people do. I mean, I'm not surprised, man. Again, like I said earlier, I think people need to just stop watching their show and not worth anybody's time, honestly. But I guess enough people take them seriously enough to call their show. But I mean, the thing is they have a reputation of doing this for like the past 10 or so years or so, and I don't think they're really taken seriously by people who really, really are up there. Maybe they'll have some debates with people who are like Matt Slick or something, but I don't see these people getting into debates with folks like William Lane Craig, people like, Dr. James White. I don't see them debating these sorts of people, these really, really serious Christian thinkers. So, I mean, I don't think anybody...
Well, you see how bad Matt Dillahunty did with Matt Slick when he spoke with Matt Slick recently, right? I mean, that's, like I said, that's pretty much what happens when you get them off their show. They tend to not do very well. And there's been other events like that. We were speaking with two real philosophers, actually, and he had another atheist with him debating these two philosophers, and they just tore Matt Dillahunty apart. But the problem is that Christians aren't obnoxious and like a lot of these atheists are. So it wasn't talked about that much. I have some of the clips on my channel, but yeah, I mean, that's typically what happens when Matt Dillahunty is off of his show. He doesn't do very good when he's off of his show, and unfortunately that's like the only way that we can actually have a real dialogue with these people is if we get them off of that show. If somehow we can figure out a way to get them off of their show to speak with us, I think that people are going to clearly see how bad they do.
Oh,
I was trying to let people know through the last feed that I had running. Pay attention to what Matt Dillahunty is doing. He's saying some of the same things that he said on his show, but look at him. I mean, these long phases of awkward silences. He doesn't know what to say. He's trying to change the topic, but Matt Slick isn't allowing that to continue. He did a bad job, and he to me, I mean, when I watched that, I was feeling embarrassed for Matt, and I don't know. I guess to me, I want to see more of that happen. But the problem is that the only person who really goes off that show and speaks and has debates like that is Matt Dillahunty. And even when Matt Dillahunty is leaving his show, the Christians are not, even when they point it out, they're not digging it into them like they need it dug into them. You get what I'm trying to say? Some of these people are very obnoxious like Matt Dillahunty, so they need to be put in their place. They need to be humbled. With some of the other people that Matt Dillahunty speaks to, yeah, they'll refute him from point to point here or there, but they won't dig it into them like an atheist would do it if it were a Christian.
Absolutely, and like those two that you were dealing with today, I double dog dare them to get off their show and debate either you or myself. Either of us would tear them to shreds. G-Man would tear them to shreds. Vecca would tear them to shreds. Any of us would just annihilate these dudes, just eviscerate these people, man. So like I said, I just dare any of them to get off that show and do like a one-on-one structured debate. A casual exchange. I don't think it's going to happen, but whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah, I guess, it's like I said, somebody needs to throw things at them piece by piece, and that's what I've been wanting to do for a while. It's the only reason why I keep calling the Atheist Experience, is because if somehow I can stand that show for just 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and they were to deal with my things that I have to say directly, we'd be able to plant seeds on that show so that in the future, whenever people go and watch that show, they'll see how bad they did. Now, we've already had a couple of examples like that. I mean, you look at Caban the Christian, the dude's like 14 years old. You see the discussion that he had with Matt Dillahunty, just made a fool out of Matt. There's been other people, too, who's called the show. I got some clips of these discussions on my channel, but it's not enough. Somebody needs to just flat out ask them some questions in science. Like earlier, I was listening in the call because I tried to call again, and they put me on hold, and they started making some statements about how a lot of scientists agree with evolution. There's really no scientists out there that disagree with evolution. It's just the fringe scientists, whatever. Well, what I would have said to that is, how do you know that? Because there's only actually been a few different universities that have actually been reviewed and been polled, right? So even if you get a couple of thousand scientists, there's 8 to 9 million scientists out there that are active in peer review. So a couple of thousand out of 8 or 9 million is a joke. So in order for you to prove or to back up your claim, remember the burden of proof is on them for this claim, in order for them to back up their claim that the majority of scientists actually supports evolutionary theory, they're going to have to show me at least 4.5 million to 5.5 million scientists. And unfortunately, of course, they're not going to be able to say something like that. So the claim is an unfounded claim that's passed around all over the internet just because a couple of secular universities happen to be predominantly evolutionary biologists or biologists that actually support evolutionary theory, right? It's a claim that they cannot defend. Now, of course, if I'm this blunt with them, I'll probably be over talking removed, right? Because you don't ask questions that they can't deal with and answer. You're not allowed to hold their feet over the fire on their show. But the Christian who called, unfortunately, he was a bad example, so they were allowing him to continue speaking. He didn't do a very good job defending the faith. Now, it's not trying to attack him or anything, but notice why they would allow him to continue speaking but remove other people when they try to call. Same thing happened the first discussion that I had with Matt Dillahunty, very first discussion I had with him. I was pointing out to him repeatedly, look, dude, I'm calling you so that we can actually get to the evidence to actually see what's true. Because he told me, look, just because, I forget how I put it. He said, just because there happens to be some people who are not Christians or whatever that believe in or support intelligent design doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And I told him, look, actually means what is actually true. He avoided getting to the topic with him. He said, I don't want to talk about that. But in the next discussion that he had with the DS at the end of his discussion, the issue with him about science, about who knows what and all that other crap, trying to condescend to him, because the theist is obviously timid, the deist is obviously timid and doesn't know what to say in response to him. So he's going to try to bully him and throw his weight around. It's the typical thing that I see all the time. Don't allow the Christian that comes in boldly to present his case, because this is the atheist experience and it's inconvenient for the cause of the show. But let anybody else come in that is not equipped to defend their position. Let them talk, and we'll just try to go to town on that person.
It was really disappointing, man, because the thing is, as much as we find a whole lot of people who are atheists who just simply don't know how to think through their positions properly, unfortunately, that's conversely the same for our side as well. There's just a whole lot of people who need to be informed on how to think properly. I mean, I think we're definitely getting better, but we definitely have a long way to go, man. And more people are just going to have to start getting informed. More people are just going to have to start getting educated, man. And the more people that get educated, the better. And then maybe we could get to a point to where like almost every person who calls their show are going to be able to destroy them. Then they're going to really have a problem.
The problem is that there have been a lot of people who've called the show who could ask very fair questions and press them, but they're not allowed to speak very long. That's the problem. They're really not allowed to speak very long, and the volume is decreased. If you guys go listen to the last call with Brett Keane, for example, and from his channel and from the Atheist Experience, you can see a very clear difference in audio. And it seemed to me like the majority of what Brett was trying to say wasn't even heard from their end.
I bet you none of those two will come on somebody's show like the Bible Thumping Weed Nut. You'll never see that happen.
Yeah, they won't go to the Bible Thumping Weed Nut.
Yeah, they pretty much, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not going to say they expect people to call their show, I guess. I don't really know. But I think they can.
I'm going to be trying to set. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say real quick. I don't know if expect is the good word, but they know at some point that, believer is going to call their show. So I just think if they really want to prove, that they're intellectually superior or their position is more logical than your typical Christian theist, then I think it would be much better for them to reciprocate by going on to other well-known Christians, mediums, and talking to them. Find out who are generally strong Christian thinkers and, reciprocating back in return and, trying to have some sort of a conversation. But I don't think that's ever going to happen now. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's the same thing with all of them. I mean, Howard Roth, for example, he thinks that we should all ignore Kent Hovind because we're just giving him attention. And he started going on about William Lane Craig, how he's been destroyed, and everybody else. He was basically mad because the drunken peasants were going to let Kent Hovind on the show, and he didn't want that to happen. Now, obviously, the reason why is pretty clear. The drunken peasants were going to get destroyed by Kent Hovind if he would have went on there, and he didn't want to see that happen because there's a large viewer base there. It seems to me that these big name atheists or these channels, it's like they got a plan set up or something. It's like, make sure none of the Christians that can offer decent points have a voice on their show. Make sure you don't allow that to happen, and you make sure the atheist has the dominant, discussion. If you look at the Magic Sandwich Show, for example, it used to have a lot of people watch that channel. They used to get a lot of views. They used to always interrupt the Christian when he would talk, and they'd give the atheist more time to speak. One particular event I remember with Venom Fang X, when he was going at it with Thunderfoot, and he was going at it with Alan Ra and DPR Jones. And Thunderfoot was obviously doing horrible in that discussion. And DPR Jones and Alan Ra, they all kept on over-talking him and interrupting him and bombarding him. You weren't seeing the same level of fairness to where, wait a minute, stop interrupting the Christian, let him finish what he's saying and get a word out, and let him continue pressing the person that he's speaking to. They sort of stick together, and they try to make sure that happens to where, the Christian gets drawn out, and if he's doing bad, well, make sure he doesn't look bad. And if the atheist is looking bad, make sure he doesn't look bad. And that's interesting to me because, look, these people are claiming that they're open to the truth. They're atheists. They just disbelieve, right? Well, then what is the problem here? Why is it why does it seem like on every podcast they have to drown out what the Christian is saying? They have to strawman the Christian. They got to bombard the Christian and make sure he can't speak and he can't be heard clearly. It's like they're fighting the Christian, not in a way with intellect or truth, but almost like censorship. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It's like they're doing,
I absolutely get what you're trying to say.
They're trying to do the best they can to drown out what the Christian is saying. And it's a shame. It's a shame it's going in that direction. But, like this.
What I think it's going to happen. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. But I was going to make a quick point after you're done.
No, you can go ahead, Antonio.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think what's going to have to happen, man, is that we believers are going to have to create an atmosphere to where atheists are compelled to come to us rather than us, calling their show, because we need to stop giving these people a platform to where they think that they're such esteemed sort of thinkers that we have to call their show and come onto their turf. We need to create an atmosphere. We need to create I don't know if I'll say need, or for lack of a better word, we just need to create an atmosphere for the atheists to want to call us and talk to us and not the other way around. Because the bottom line is they're not going to treat, strong Christian thinkers fairly at all. It's not going to happen. So once we flip the script and turn the tables on them, then real change can start to happen and these people will get exposed.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. That's what we need to see happen. The problem is that, our channels, even though we get a decent amount of people watching them from time to time, it's still nowhere amounts to the viewers that they're getting on their channel. So in their eyes, they think that it's beneath them to come on some of these shows. And it's sad because actually some of the atheists that come into these shows, these lower level shows in their eyes, even my channel or G-Man's or whatever, some of these panels that we have typically on YouTube, that some of the atheists actually do way better than they do. And a matter of fact, I got to say that for every single person on the atheist experience, they're a joke. I mean, they really are a joke. I don't think that they're good or talented at all. That's the reason why I've been calling repeatedly. I'm trying to make sure that, look, if I can come in there and get a point across and we can actually speak with each other. But I realize it's not going to happen. I mean, the games that they're starting to play with people, there's no way for you to actually speak freely. If coming in there confidently, it seems like that is a big no-no. You don't let that theist speak. Make sure you find an excuse to get him out of the call ASAP. That seems to be the way that it is. And they're a bunch of cowards, man. I mean, if they're so confident about their position and views, then how about they stay quiet? They agree to what I asked them to do to begin with. Just be quiet. Wait for me to. I didn't tell them it like that, but I said, look, how about we wait before this discussion continues and make sure that both of us agree that we're going to wait for each other to finish speaking, even if you don't like what's going to be said. That way we make sure the discussion stays productive. And that was like a big no-no to them. It's like, no, we need to overtalk you, because if we can't overtalk you, then we can't make it look like we know what we're talking about, because you might offer points that are better than mine. You know, it's very, very telling.
Yeah, man, I don't know if you was planning on continuing this hangout for a bit, and I don't know why you asked me for it, but Wayne Fillmore asked me for the link. I don't know what your plans were with this hangout.
Yeah, I know what he wants. He probably wants to talk about like theistic evolution or something like that again, but honestly, I'm not in the mood to talk about that. And plus, in about 30 minutes, I got to take off for work anyways. So, no.
All right.
Maybe tomorrow or something, we can talk again. Let's try to talk about something different, though, next time, because we're always talking about theistic evolution. So maybe just like pick a different topic.
Yeah, that's not going to go anywhere, honestly, because we just bump heads every time that discussion comes up. It's just not going to go anywhere.
Well, it's not that. I've talked to him, like, I think every time I've talked with Wayne, it's always been about theistic evolution. I think we're sort of beating that horse to death, so maybe we should just talk about something else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think yet I've actually talked to him about like something else.
All right, but Leb, just right before we end the hangout, I'm just saying, man, I mean, I know it's a little difficult, man, but we just got to keep plugging away until we create a sort of atmosphere to where they just won't be able to ignore us, to where it's just going to be like if they do ignore us, they're going to be the ones who looks ridiculous for doing so. I mean, yeah, I mean, nothing worth doing. Most things that are worth doing anyway don't come easy. So we just got to keep plugging away and keep showing that these people, it's got to be shown whether they're worth our time or not the other way around. Because quite honestly, I don't feel any sort of need to call their show at all. Because I really just don't take them that seriously. I just think that's just how insignificant they really are. So no matter how difficult it is, I intend on creating an atmosphere to where they'll be compelled to call my show at some point in time later down the road.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about, man. We need to keep on working on our channels and make sure we get a viewer base higher than they actually are now. In their eyes, yeah, I mean, they are looking at things, I guess, to where they can continue doing this unfair the way that they are, because I think they think that, like, we need to talk to them or something, but they're not understanding, like, when we're calling their show, it's not to call them because we think they're an authority or anything, or we even take them seriously. It's actually the opposite.
Exactly.
They're interpreting things the wrong way. When I call the atheist experience, it's not because I don't even take them seriously. I call them because when they're sitting there speaking, they speak with authority about things that much of it is fallacious. Much of the statements that they make are fallacious, and the rest of it are things that they don't understand that they're getting wrong, or that the theist isn't even asking any questions. I mean, to see any discussion go like it goes in some of our hangouts, where people are asking questions back and forth, and they're both sides are trying to deal with certain discussion, certain points in a more technical sense. I don't see that on their show. And I think that the reason why we're not seeing that on their show is because they have things set up so that that doesn't happen. Just in case somebody starts talking about something that they're not going to be able to deal with, they make sure that they remove that person from the call beforehand. But yeah, I see what you're saying, man. I mean, we need to stop calling the show and making it look like we're calling them, because people get the wrong impression that they're in some sort of authority.
But the thing is, I can't honestly say that. In one sense, I can't say that I honestly blame them, because they've had significant advantage on YouTube for a long time, because for the longest time, YouTube was pretty much dominated by atheists, and by and large, it still pretty much is. and they pretty much they put the time in. I'll give them credit for putting the time in, and sticking to the show and growing the base. And because of the by and large non-believer demographic on YouTube, they pretty much exploited it, and they've allowed it to grow their fan base, and they used it to their advantage. And I can't honestly knock them for that in that sense. So I mean, as dishonest as they may be when they conduct themselves on the show, if that's the strategy they want to use, then we just have to strategize better than them. That's pretty much the bottom line. It's a strategy, man. That's all it is.
Yeah, so I guess I'm going to end the call guy or the Hangout guys. But yeah, what I might do is I might do a remake of this Hangout that we're in right now. And I'm going to probably put it together in a video later on against towards Matt Delahanty. I'm actually working on that video, so I think that what just happened just now, how they lied, I think it's going to work out pretty good into that video. So you guys can definitely expect a response that's going to include other things as well, because people need to see this. There was no reason for him to say that after the discussion ended. And we can all see when the discussion ended in the last video that was just uploaded. Look at the very end of it, where it ended. And then from there, watch the original feed, the live feed from the Atheist Experience, the current episode that they have uploaded. And notice that after it ends, where you hear me ending it here, I tell him afterwards that the discussion is over. I mean, I ended the call. There's no reason for him to say he's hearing the live feed, but he still keeps on saying he's hearing the live feed. And then abruptly, he just removes me from the call. So I think it's very clear he had no intention of removing me from or of keeping me in the call. I suspect they possibly knew who I was when I called. And the reason why is because if these people know who G-Man is and some of these other people are, with the Atheist Experience as I am, then why wouldn't they know who I am? Because if you look at my responses to the Atheist Experience, I mean, one of them got 7,009 views, 6,128 views, 2,070 views. These are the videos that I uploaded. It's 2,070 views, 3,380 views, 1,920 views. I mean, just the last video that I uploaded in response to Matt Delahanty's discussion, that's 1,304 views. So a lot of people have seen, my responses to the Atheist Experience. I think I've been more aggressive to the Atheist Experience than anybody else in our community. So you're not going to tell me that they're going to know who G-Man is, who's only had a couple of responses to the Atheist Experience, but they're not going to know who I am. And I've got I don't even know how many, 12, maybe 13. I'm going to have to look through it, but I know I have quite a few responses to them. So I think that what they were doing was they were trying to figure out a way to get me out of the call. As soon as they heard my voice, they recognized who I was. Interestingly enough, that seems to be the same approach that Matt Delahanty had in the first call that I had with him. There seems, interestingly enough, when you listen to me talking with him, there seems to be a lot of evading for some reason, avoiding actually talking about the topic. He'll speak with an authoritative tone, and then when I call out that tone, you can clearly see him trying to say, well, I don't want to talk about it. I'm not interested in talking about that. And it had to do with science. That's what I wanted to talk about. Second discussion that he had, very next discussion that he had after that, he started talking with a DS and at the end of the call. And there, for some reason, you can clearly see a different tone with the DS to where he didn't, he wasn't very confident. But yeah, Matt Delahanty's trying to bully him and throw all these accusations at him. And he was able to stay there for a decent amount of time.
Dude, even multiple personality,
so
who I have a lot of respect for, who's currently not a believer, even point out how Matt Delahanty was trying to shift things and really didn't stick to the subject at hand that you want to speak about with him. So there's people who see this and point out, honest thinkers, people I respect like him who see what he's doing. Most of these trolls on here, they're just going to troll because it's, common to their cause to troll for that person who agrees with them. But people who are honest thinkers, they see what he's doing, man.
Exactly. That's exactly what they're doing. They're trolling for him. They're making excuses for him because the Atheist Experience is really the only thing that they've got. I mean, you really look at it, the majority of their people have been refuted. You look at William Lane Craig and everybody else, Frank Turek and everybody else. You look at Kent Hovind and everybody else. And I'm not even a young Earth creationist. I have some of my disagreements with Kent Hovind, but Kent Hovind seems to go just completely refute every single person he goes after. That's typically how it goes. All they have is the atheist experience. And when somebody points out, look, even this only thing that they have over here, why do they even have that? Because on the show, it's nothing but a bunch of censorship. The people who call, they're not able to speak freely. So yeah, if you're talking to theists and you're manipulating the discussion to remove them when you start to hear things that are going to be inconvenient, yeah, you might appear to be knowing what you're talking about. You might be able to conduct yourself with authority. That's only because you're intercepting and making sure that nothing that's inconvenient for you or any challenging views are not going to be heard. So that's not something to be proud of. If I were an atheist, I'd be like, dude, you people on the atheist experience need to stop what you're doing. Stop being so quick to remove these people from the call and to boot them and mute them like you're doing, because you're doing a bad job. You see, on my channel right here, I'll boot someone or I'll mute them when they keep the issue going. They'll start cursing at someone, or they start bombarding, playing games like that. And for fair reasons, the atheists in our little community, they get mad at that because I don't let that happen. But when Matt Dillahunty and some of the other people in the atheist experience are booting people for no reason whatsoever other than saying things that disagree with their position, why aren't they saying anything about that? Because there seems to be no concern at all with, the truth, or about having actual dialogue with the atheists. It's all about sticking with those that are coming to the cause, and sticking it to those that disagree with their cause, because they're intolerant. They don't want to hear things that they disagree with. That's all it really comes down to.
So you're gonna do a hangout tomorrow?
I'm gonna probably do a hangout tomorrow night, possibly maybe around 5 or 7 o'clock. It's going to be another Bring It Evolutionist.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah,
I'll be there, bro.
All right, everybody, God bless. Take it easy.